You are now tuned in to Freedom Isn't Free podcast, where we provide a voice for the military service members, veterans, and their families. We are here to encourage, inspire, and to provide resources. Today, ladies and gentlemen, I have our guest here, Kenny. Kenny, thank you for joining us. I'm so excited for Freedom Isn't Free podcast and you to be our first guest on. Kenny, can you tell our listeners a little bit about your upbringing and life as a military brat?
First off, thank you for having me on, and congratulations on launching your podcast and having me as your first guest. Moving on to the question, upbringing as a kid. Wow, where to start? Both my parents was military. Joined back in, I want to say the 80s, maybe the 70s, right? Had me in 84. I was born in Texas, lived there for 4 months as a newborn, and then lived overseas for the rest of my life, like from Korea to Germany to Italy to Spain. The upbringing was stern because of, the way the military was structured back then. Everybody was tough. Nobody really had a soft gene or a soft bone, or even if they did, they didn't want it to be transparent. It was kind of compressed into what they did. So my parents were strict on me as a kid. I was the only child for the first 13 years of my life. So being that, it was parents deployed quite a bit. I lived in all of my friends' houses for years just because of it's just the way it was. Waking up early, 5 a.m. That's been my life for the past 36 years because I'm accustomed to it. Meeting family that's outside of family, right? Not blood family, but military family. So that kind of shaped me to where I am today. The stern and disciplined upbringing and the diversity of being able to see the world as a kid, because everybody's not blessed and fortunate enough to do that.
So, what were your experiences with traveling the world as a military brat?
So the experiences in traveling the world was by far the best experience that any child, or I think every child, should experience, because you're exposed to different cultures of life, not just by seeing TV. For me, in Korea, I learned, origami, learned about a lot of the food and the history and the culture of that side of the world. Then as I got older, moving to Europe as a kid, that's a different type of environment, different type of culture. So I learned how to adapt and adjust and be flexible regardless of who you're around, because at the end of the day, we're all humans, right? We live in a different part of the world. So that really made me, the type of person I am today.
What did you enjoy the most what did you enjoy the most traveling the world?
I would have to say I'm a foodie, right? The food, right? I love food. And I've had a chance to experience foods in all cultures, right? I love the pastries and the candies of Europe, to the pastas and all type of beefs and different meats, and from Korea to Thailand. So I would say the food, out of everything that I've experienced, the food has been the best.
Okay. So, taking a step back, during your senior year of high school, what were your options after graduating? And did you see yourself joining the military?
Um, that's great. That's a great question. So, being that the story behind why I joined, all right, I left Europe my senior year, Christmas time of my senior year, to move back to Florida because my parents got orders to go back to the States. So all of my friends that I met in high school was like, all right, now nobody thought about the military, being military brats. No kid really thinks about joining, right? Because we're tired of it. We've been doing it for, 18 years. Graduated from school in 2002. Took a year to figure out life. Worked odd end jobs, McDonald's, grocery stores, you name it, I was doing it. But then life hit me. I was like, it's something bigger. I think I'm bigger than what I'm doing now. I want a challenge. And I want to carry my name, right? My parents did it, so I feel like carrying the tradition of being a military kid, like it suits me. I'm already built for it. So I decided to join in 2003.
So, so you really didn't see yourself joining the military, but you did. Were there any other options, when you had graduated? Did you see yourself going to college? Did you see yourself anywhere else but the military?
Yeah, I did. So I had a vision of going to college, playing basketball, possibly going pro. Um, but life happened. I had gotten to be transparent, I had gotten in some trouble in Florida. So I couldn't had a scholarship to go to college to play basketball, but I got in some trouble, so that got pulled. So now, you know, the reality of life kicked in. I need to work. I would like a place to stay. I want a vehicle. I want to do nice things. I want to hang out, right? And I can't do that if you don't have a job. You can't do that if you don't have income. So after, thriving through that year, the best option for me that I seen, because I knew what the military was about already, was join. Um, and that's why I did it.
So after making your decision to join the Army, what was processing through your mind, especially since we were preparing for war at that time?
It was a gut check for me. Um, and not when I say me, my family as a whole, because my parents was on the they were on the brink of retiring, right? They were retiring, and I was going in at the height of a war. Um, Not knowing what that meant, not knowing that I would be overseas, dodging bullets, and not knowing it was scary yet exciting, because I know I was going to do something bigger than me. And that's always been my mindset, to do something bigger than me.
Yeah, I think that the military, it definitely brings out greatness in folks. Um, it brings out it brings out a person that you never knew that was inside of you. Um, when you go through these experiences, when you're facing life or death during a war, what was going through you, Kenny? I mean, at this point, we 9/11 had hit. You had came back to the States. You're joining the military, and guess what? We're in the middle of a war. Like, what were your experiences? You were facing life or death. You were going into the thick of things where a lot of people, as civilians, we don't experience that. What were your experiences when you were looking out and you were facing life or death? There's two options, listeners, when it comes to war. Our military service members are trained. So can you just describe that to me?
Yeah. So the mindset, to be honest, is to get back home, right? Me, I was young in it, so I didn't have a family. I didn't have, daughters. I didn't have any of that, right? So the mindset was get back home. You have family. You have a name to live up to, right? But to be transparent, it's scary. It is, if you have never been shot at, or never had to sleep in a austere location, or not able to have the necessities of a bath or water, or the luxuries of fast food or home cooked meals for months and months at a time, it kind of awakens who you really are, right? It's down to the core of you now. Like, either you want to be here or you don't. So going through that and watching friends and the list can go on of death, right? Young men and women, my brothers and sisters in arms, that didn't make it home, right? That's the fear, knowing that the height of this war, you may not make it home. So it's a gut check to you. Like, do you really join in the military? It's a gut check. It's a self-assessment. Are you willing to die for this? Are you willing to give it all that you have? Those are hard questions that yeah, you can have a self prepping type of talk, but the reality of it, when you're there, that's when it comes down to facing that. Because once you're there, there's no turning back now. You're there. So the mindset is to get home.
So when you signed up after high school, you didn't think about, life or death, during the war. You were signing up. But when was it when you really faced that reality of this could be it?
The reality um is when you land into whatever location you're going to, right? When you, and not to be too obviously can't speak too much about it, but like when you land in a certain location of the world and you're armed with weapons, this is not the norm. As kids, we grew up and we lived life. We're not a care in the world. Our parents are taking care of us. Now you're in an austere location with people that want to harm you. You have to protect yourself and those that came with you, because that is what we do. We are protecting this flag. This is why we're here, right? This is the nature of it. No, again, like I said, no turning back now. It's scary, and I'm glad we're not at a type of war that back then, because it was a scary time to put on a uniform.
So, Kenny, I know when I think back to 9/11 and where I was at Wiesbaden High School, and I had just got done from practice, and all of a sudden, our coaches came to us and said, "Hey, I need you guys to get on the bus. You guys have to go back home." Um, there's been, I think I don't know the technical term they use, but they use some term basically like, something happened in the U.S. You need to get on the buses and you need to get back to your duty, back to your homes. And so at that time, I was like, what in the world just happened? What were your thoughts when 9/11 was hit?
So when 9/11 happened, I was sitting in Tampa, Florida, in a classroom, and it came on TV, and it was like, man, the thought of what's about to happen. Being that we're military brats, we know our parents are in, but like the thought of what just happened, it was unreal. It was unreal because a lot of my classmates had family members that were there, had family members that was in New York, had family members that was in the Pentagon when this happened. So the the natural shock of what just happened, it was a punch in the stomach. Like, it was a real punch in the stomach.
So from, you being in class to you serving, it came like kind of like full circle. Like um, you were there, or let me say you were aware of the situation from 9/11, and then you were on the battlefields. Um, through your years of service, what has made the greatest impact to your life?
I think the greatest impact that I've learned in being in as long as I've been in is uh it's the the bonding and relationships that you build with people that you had no idea would fight for you, would stick up for you, would die for you, right? These people, the bond and relationships that you learn and build with military is one of a kind. You can't buy that anywhere. You can't make that up. Like you look to your left and your right when you're in an austere location around the world and they are willing to die for you. That's a bond like no other. You can't go in the store and buy that. Right? That shaped me to want to stay in as long as I've been in. My brothers and sisters that are to my left and my right.
So it sounds like you've had a very successful career
I'm
within the
blessed.
military.
Yeah, I'm
Absolutely.
blessed. I'm blessed.
Um, would you do it all over again? Would you still make the same decisions of going into the military, sacrificing your life for us?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I wouldn't change everything that I've experienced from my ups to my lowest downs. I wouldn't change it for the world at all.
And listeners, this is coming from a man that didn't really anticipate going into the military. Like he said, I can second what he said. Most of us military brats, we're not thinking of, yeah, when I graduate high school, I'm going into the military. That's not our mindset at all. We are really trying to escape having to live somewhere, move again, live somewhere, move again, uproot my entire life, everything that I know every couple of years. So, Kenny, what would you tell your younger self? If anything, what would you tell your younger self as a soldier?
As a young soldier coming in, the one thing that I would tell myself is that remain humble. Life, because if you don't, life will humble you. And that's in the uniform and outside the uniform.
So, if there was a young soldier coming into the military, um, scared, afraid, didn't know what he signed up for, describe to me some of the things that you would do as a senior in the military. Describe to me what you would help with this soldier, because I know a lot of young people get in thinking that, oh, I'm just going to get in and do a couple years and get out. But through that process of being in the military and through the camaraderie and through just growing and developing and becoming your own person, what would you tell a soldier that you're mentoring and rising in the ranks? What would you tell them?
The first thing I would tell them is remain grounded in your faith, right? And if they don't know what that is, I mean, we could definitely work on that too. But the main thing is stay grounded in your faith, right? What a lot of young kids that come in the military, they've never really been on their own. So being able to manage and live life on your own, being your own, growing into an adult. A lot of the young kids that I've met coming up didn't really have a mentor to explain to them what life is like in the military, because it's totally different. You're expected, and you're upheld to a standard, and you have to perform, right? That's what it's about. Another big thing is it's okay to feel down or feel sad, right? Because a lot of what's put out, or the perception of being in the military, is that you're tough all the time, but that's not true, right? It's okay to express and talk to others and somebody that you can confide in about your feelings and how you feel, because keeping it compressed, right, it builds up over time. Then that soldier may explode and react in a certain way, and people are like, where did this come from? But this is years and years and years of compressing and compounding feelings that may have needed to be talked about. So it's okay to go talk to somebody about how you feel. It's okay to ask for advice, right? Because you don't know everything, and you won't know everything, right? So it's okay to not know everything. Financials, right? Financials are a big part of, you know, life. Teaching them how to manage finances. Um, it's a plethora of things that it just depends on where they are in life is how I would challenge that. But those are the basics. Understanding how to be their own person, staying grounded in their faith, asking for help if need be, and expressing themselves in a way that they don't feel like they're alone. That's how I mentor, and the mentees that look up to me, I express that to them all the time. Stay grounded in your faith, stay on top of your finances, and it's okay to feel down or feel bothered. That's okay, but you have to talk about it, because if you keep it compressed, you're like a ticking time bomb. Somebody's going to trigger you to react in a way that no one can help you now, because you've put yourself in a position, right, to be there.
Absolutely. I think those are great qualities and characteristics of a soldier, um, and to embody them. That's
Correct.
yeah, that's great. Um, so give me 3 words to describe your experiences from being a military brat to being a soldier.
3 words. Let's go with diversity, right? As a military brat, we learn to be diverse, deal with different peoples of culture, right? All around the world, we learn to be diverse. Adaptability. We had to adapt, right? As kids that grew up in the States and going overseas, we had to adapt to overseas customs and courtesies and life skills, right? But then the more we lived overseas, we came back to the States and it seemed foreign, because we had lived overseas for so long. So the adaptability is key. Um, and the last one will have to be love. Um, you generally meet great people traveling the world, whether you're a military brat or you're the spouse of a military brat or whatever the situation is, and transferring into the military. Love is like something that it keeps you grounded and it keeps you moving forward. You can't, like I said earlier, you can't buy that, right? I have military friends that I've met since being in, and military brats. We have joined, right, and have been through things together, and it's built. It's love. I can call a brat right now and get assistance. I can call a brother and sister in arms and get assistance. And some of us actually joined, and this is what we do, right? Rest in peace to both of my brothers that we both, all three of us, decided to join, Sheldon and Cortland. This is what we wanted to do, right? May God rest their souls. They gave the ultimate sacrifice for us to continue to do what we do. So those are my 3.
Um, the love part is what hit me, Kenny. I can honestly say the best times of my life was when I was in Germany, and the love and the just friendship, um, it was unmatched. And when my mom had to relocate to Washington, D.C. Oh my gosh, was it a wake up for me? It definitely was not like Germany, and the friendship and the love was not like how I had it. And so some days I just want to go back to Germany and relive those days. It was amazing. Um, and I see that you definitely um, gave your respects to Sheldon and Cortland. Um, Anything that you want to highlight with those soldiers?
Um, so those were my brothers, right? We joined. When we joined, it was like we all reached out to each other, like, man, this is what we're gonna do, right? This is what we're doing. Um, and they gave. We know, right? When you raise your right hand, right, you know what you're getting into. There's no backing down from that. We always pushed each other and challenged each other to be better. We always wanted to be better. We stayed competitive, but it was love. It was all out of love. We always checked on each other, and because we were going through the same struggles, right? We grew up military brats. Now we're in the military. How real is that, right? It was a beautiful thing, and being in those austere locations, like I talked about earlier, it's everybody's goal is to get home, right? But some of us don't make it, and again, God rest their souls and their families. They they're gone in the physical sense, to say the least, right? But they're still watching over us, and I believe that, and always will.
So, Kenny, what is next for you? What do you have going on in your world? What's next?
That's a beautiful question. One thing that I didn't talk about, right, as I talk to the young soldiers that are coming in, is life after the military, right? There is life when you're done, when you've done all that you can. For me, I have two beautiful daughters. Leaving a legacy for them is key for me. Um, Whether it's real estate or it's a business or it's whatever it may be, right? Because they're up next, they're after me, but I owe it to them to leave it better than I found it, i.e., life, right? I need to make sure that their life will be better than mine. I don't think anybody would top being a military brat living in Germany, though, the time that we was there. I don't think you can top that, right? But to say the least, to leave a legacy, right? When I leave this earth, I want to leave it better than I came in and found it. So when I'm done with the military in a few years, who knows? I'm gonna travel the world first, and then we'll see what happens after that.
Bring me along, Kenny. I want to go
Let's go. Let's go.
too. Kenny, thank you so much for just taking the time out to speak to our listeners, answer my questions. I have enjoyed this.
Definitely,
This has
definitely.
definitely been wonderful. Um, Anything that you want to leave our listeners?
Um, to the listeners out there, without the support, right? People thank the vets, right? But without the support, we wouldn't be where we are. We couldn't do what we do. So whether it's veterans listening or spouses of veterans or people that just support the military, right? Without you guys' support, we couldn't be where we are. We couldn't do the things that we do. So I salute you, and I thank you. Thank you for having me on. Thank you for having me as your first guest, and it's an honor and a privilege to do what I do. But without you guys, we couldn't be where we are. So again, thank you, and God bless.
All right, you guys, thank you for listening. This is your host, Laura Figures, and please remember, freedom isn't free.